welcome to this week's episode of TRUUU Podcast. I'm your host, Alex.
And I'm your host, Drea.
And today, by Drea's request, she thought that this would be a really fun topic, and I think that it would be a fun topic too. So we're going to talk about our favorites as far as superheroes are concerned, like franchises, just general favorites, TV, movies, all that stuff. So...
Indeed.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. But first, we'll not get distracted and we're going to do our week updates. How was your week, Dre?
I actually have a significant amount of things to talk about today for our week update. Mm-hmm. First of all, I want to talk about the Super Bowl. Here's the thing. I used to be really into football because, surprise, surprise, I used to date a football player. And so during that time that I dated him, he got me really into it. I legitimately was I played fantasy football. I knew all the quarterbacks of all the teams and everything. Mm-hmm. And then when we broke up, shortly after we broke up, there was also all the controversy that happened with Colin Kaepernick and the whole standing for Black Lives Matters. It was Black Lives Matters before it was officially Black Lives Matters kind of deal.
Sure.
And he was always let me step back for a second. So my favorite team prior to this happening was always the 49ers.
Okay.
And so he was my favorite quarterback. And then when he started doing all this stuff and I'm that type of person who's very rah social movement. So when he started doing this, I was 100% behind him, always supporting him. And so when he got blackballed by the NFL, I have boycotted the NFL ever since.
Sure.
So I have not paid attention to football for the past, 5 years, 4 years?
Has it been that long?
It's been significantly a while. Because when I dated JT, that was in 2015. We broke up.
Right.
So yeah, it's been 5-6 years even. Around then. I don't know exactly, around 5 years.
Okay.
But anyway. Mm-hmm. But this year with the Super Bowl, they were everyone was making a big deal. They were oh, it's gonna be very social justice and they're going to be supporting the movement and da-da-da-da. So I was okay, well, let me take a gander here. And I gotta say, I was very disappointed in a lot of things. I'm happy that they did put out a lot of good messages. It's just stand up for what you believe in, da-da-da-da, whatever. Mm-hmm. The game itself, so boring. It was so boring.
For sure.
Outrageously boring. Oh my God. I was really the whole time I was waiting for the Chiefs to come back. I was they kept on the commentators kept on saying Mahomes has been in a deficit this big before. He's done it before. He's come back. And so I'm always okay, Mahomes, let's start doing something. And the entire game was just so boring. The best part of the whole thing was the Weeknd's performance in the middle. Those are my thoughts.
So I too watched the Super Bowl.
Wow, that's a bigger deal than me watching.
I mean, it was barely, but I was
Don't you also boycott the Super Bowl because you hated doing it when you worked at Fox?
No, that's not why. And
okay.
We didn't host the Super Bowl every year. That was something that was traded off responsibilities between the networks. Mm-hmm. But the one year that we did it was outrageous. It was so much work. All we got for our trouble was a hat. But anyway.
Did you wear it? Yes. Or did you wear it Sunday?
No.
No. Okay.
But I just don't wear hats inside the house. But anyway, sure. Not the point. So, and what's actually funny about it is that the year that I left Fox was the year that they got the Super Bowl again. So I left right in the nick of time. I was peace out, y'all.
You guys handle it.
Have fun with the Super Bowl. But anyway, so yeah, my whole thing is that I've been annoyed at the Super Bowl for the past couple of years because, not that it's their fault or anything, but I've been annoyed because the Patriots have been in the Super Bowl for years because of Tom Brady, right?
Yeah.
And my whole thing is just kind of hey, listen, I get that you're good and that's how it works and that's how you get to the Super Bowl and that's all fine. I understand. However, it is extremely boring to me that you've been winning consecutive Super Bowl titles and that's it. You see them in the Super Bowl and you just kind of expect that they're going to win.
Yeah.
So last year, that was my complaint as well. I'm just kind of watching the Patriots play is so boring. Well, it also
no, he didn't play last year. Because last year the Chiefs won. Mahomes was the defending title. Whatever.
Oh, whatever.
But yeah, all the years prior when Patriots are in, yes, they always
it's
dominate.
an overwhelming, because I don't think I watched it last year, but it's an overwhelming majority of them in the Super Bowl and it being really boring to me. And also because during that time when I was working at Fox, I was playing squares with my coworkers. If you know what that is.
Yeah. When you like, you have
So
certain, like you're betting on certain like outcomes or something.
Yeah, well, it's more so like you get, like they have like you can change like how many squares by how many squares it is, but point being is that each square gets assigned a number and you have your own squares that you like buy into. And if at the end of each quarter, the half, third quarter, final, if the score ends in like that particular number, like for the winning team, I think you win a certain amount of money. So like the first quarter and the third quarter are always like less money. The half is a little bit more, and the final is like a lot. So whenever they'd play, it just make for like a really boring game because everyone, like the same person was winning for like squares the entire time. It was just stupid. Yeah. Anyway, so like I didn't really pay attention to the Super Bowl last year, obviously, because I didn't know who played in it. And we had just, anyway, didn't pay attention to it that year. And then this year, when I heard that, who was playing, it was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know that Tom Brady was playing for the Buccaneers.
Oh, you didn't know he switched to the Bucs? That's so funny. You're so, just like, God.
When I saw him on the screen, I'm just like, no.
Like, I'm being followed. Yeah, it's so dumb. And my like not counterpoint, like my point to further your point that you're saying, like it's kind of boring to watch the same person win it over and over again. So obviously I'm a tennis player. And so like in tennis, there are like three in the men's rather, there are like three male players that win every single tournament basically. And like, it's just, that's how it's been for the past like 15 years. Like these three guys win it every single time. And like the reason I feel like that's not boring versus it's boring to see what's his face, Tom Brady win it all is because those matches are very rarely like knockouts. Like it's always like really close and like they're just the better player and they always etch it out, and it's like, oh, really intense. And so I feel like that makes fun. Like if Tom Brady was, well, I also take that back because I really hate Tom Brady for like who he is as a person. But like if he was like winning it barely, like, really close and he just comes out on top every time, I'd be more like, all right, whatever. But it's such a blowout that it's like, I have no interest. Like I've lost interest.
So there's two things for me here. Is like, one, I don't like the idea that like it's all dependent on one person to like win it for everyone. So I don't like the idea that it's like, oh, Tom Brady's like the second coming.
Yeah.
Because
well, I mean, like it could be
if he's on a team, that means that you're gonna win.
Well, I mean, like it could be debated that you need good receivers too, because he does have a really good, like Gronk was like a really great receiver, and they've like played together, I think, before. So like they have chemistry. I really feel like Mahomes' team, like nobody could catch a freaking ball. Like maybe his throws weren't super accurate, but like, oh my gosh, like nobody was catching it. So
it got like, silly near the end. It got really silly. But
yeah.
So I was like, just out of spite rooting for the Chiefs the entire time. I mean, passively, because also I really don't care that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, and it was really funny because like at the end of, it was in the beginning of the third, I was texting a friend and was like, man, the Chiefs are getting destroyed, because they were.
Yeah.
And he was just like, no, they're only down by 2 touchdowns. Like, it's really early to say that. I'm just kind of like, yeah, you're right. I guess it kind of is early to say that because it is only 2 touchdowns, but they didn't score again, I don't think, the entire rest of the time. So I'm just kind of like, can I say now that they got destroyed? Is that okay?
I think they got 1 field goal after that, and then that was it. And it's just like, okay, well, like this was a waste of my entire day. I mean, but one thing that, sorry, if you have another point, make it, because I'm about to like go off topic.
Okay, well, what I was going to say is that the weekend's Super Bowl performance didn't really do it for me.
Oh, really?
But that's not like a huge criticism or anything. It's just like, I'm not really a huge fan of the Weeknd.
I'm not really a huge fan either. Like, I think he's good and I like some of his songs. Like, I think they're catchy. I'm not like going to say that like he's my favorite artist, but I do appreciate like the amount of effort that went into the performance, because he has been working on creating that character, like that the masked face, like, you know, all the guys with the masks and the wrappings. He was creating that character since last year. Like I don't know if you know this, every single time he went to like an award show or he went out in public, like he had his whole face like bandaged with like bruising under his eyes, like to make it look like he was getting some sort of like plastic surgery. So he was like creating this character. I was like reading an article on this, is why I know this. Like I wouldn't come up with this myself, but like he was creating this character, right? And then this performance was supposed to like show how moving to or like coming to fame like makes you become this different person. And like at first it's really glamorous and really cool, like when he had all those lights behind him in like the city or whatever, but then like it turns into chaos, and that's when like all the guys were like storming the field and running all these crazy different ways, and then ultimately like, you know, Hollywood like breaks you down, so at the end like all of them died and like fell. So it was like this whole like installation piece, and I was like, you know, that's a lot of thought that went into it. Like I can really give him props for it. I thought it was cool.
I probably would have been giving him props for it if that's something that was readable to like the majority of the audience. Because like it felt like everyone I watched it with was just like, what did we just see? What was that?
Yeah, and I think that is like something with art. It's like if you're not looking, like if you don't know what they mean, it's hard to like know what they mean. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's why I'm always, whenever I'm telling you like, oh, did you know this? It's because I'm always like reading all these articles. I'm like, ooh, tell me more, you know? Like I'm like those people that goes to like a museum, and instead of first looking at like the piece, I look at the like the little tab on the side that gives a description, and then I'm like, ooh, you know? I'm that type of person. But anyway, so the whole reason I wanted to bring up the Super Bowl is because one really, really good thing did come out of it.
Okay.
And I'm here to say, so I don't know if you remember a few weeks ago, I did like a recommendation corner. Like I was giving like sponsorship, like moments to this app called Stop, remember? And I was like telling you how much I was obsessed with, that game.
Yeah.
And I was telling you, and I was just like, dang, I'm really like hyping up this like app for them. Not that like we have a huge amount of viewers, but in case anyone downloaded, I'm just like, that's on me. So today I have another sponsorship that's not paying us, but it is truly the biggest thing I have been excited about. And they announced it in one of the commercials during the Super Bowl. And I was like, what? And here it is. Doritos 3Ds are back. Yo, Doritos 3D. Alex, you know, I was hyping these things up in Mexico. When we went to Mexico, I was like, dude, Mexico has Doritos 3Ds. You got to get some. They're so good. And they brought them back. And this is like the biggest thing in my life, and I've been searching for them everywhere ever since I saw the commercial during the Super Bowl. I've been searching for them everywhere. I went to Vons, I went to Targets, I went to Walmart's, couldn't find it. Finally, I was like online looking, like, because it said they had them at Targets, and I was like, which Target has it? And so I saw that the Puente Hills Target had it, and so I sent Aaron, and he bought me the only 3 bags they had, and I haven't tried it, so I'm gonna open it here, and I'm gonna give a quick review, because this is some serious hype, y'all.
You know, it's really funny when I saw that commercial, because I did see that commercial while I was watching. And I was just kind of like, I mean, aren't technically by definition chips already 3D in the sense of like you can pick them up and eat them?
Okay, but like they're flat, you know what I mean? This one's puffy. It's like a bugle, but without the hole. Okay, here we go. Here's some ASMR for you guys. Okay.
Does it taste any different?
Yes. It definitely tastes like a bugle with cheese on it. It's good. I really like it. It doesn't quite taste like the ones in Mexico, like the OG 3D Doritos, but it's good. I do recommend. That's my week update.
I mean, I guess that I could understand that it could be different, you know, by the shape, because like, for example, sorry, got a text from my dad. For example, I don't like Cheetos Puffs. I like regular Cheetos.
Yeah, texture is a big thing for me. I'm sorry. I did say that my week update was done, but I do have one last super fast thing I wanted to say. And this is like something that I think you would probably be interested because it pertains to us. But I've been obsessed with TikTok. And recently I've been noticing that there has been like this huge trend of Gen Zers telling millennials what's no longer cool. Are you privy to this?
No.
Okay, well, settle in because apparently we're not cool anymore. So
Gen Z is the kids, right?
Yeah, Gen Z's like the teenagers, like the current day teenagers. It's the generation after us.
So it's not cool anymore.
So apparently millennials are not cool if they use the crying, laughing face emoji. Like if you use that emoji, apparently you're grandma.
You know what? I don't care.
Yeah, and I'm just like, well, how else are you supposed to convey that it's funny?
Right.
Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing that is like super out of style right now is like skinny, straight leg jeans.
So are they giving like explanations to these things?
They're just like, it's out of style. Now it's like those like fat, like the mom jeans, you know what I mean?
Gross.
Yeah. And then the last thing, which I am actually ahead of the curve inadvertently here, but a side part is no longer cool. Like it's not trendy.
Okay.
Which I'm like, the only reason I don't do a side part anymore is because I hate when my hair is in my face and I feel like middle part is easier to keep it out. But I'm just like, why? Like, why are these things all of a sudden like really out of style?
Well, I'm going to say, you heard it here first. I'm going to continue doing all three of those things.
I mean, obviously, like, they're kids, whatever, but I'm just like,
who cares
what
the kids think are cool?
Yeah, but I'm just like, we're at that stage now, Alex. So like we're no longer the trendsetters.
I mean, that's never been something I'm like, it's never been something I particularly cared about, but I mean, I guess that's cool for the kids that they feel so passionately about this thing. They have to tell a generation ahead of them that it's not cool anymore.
I know. I think that's also like just kind of like a Gen Z thing that like they feel like, oh, I actually saw another TikToker say this, how it's just like Gen Zers try to like bully millennials by saying like all these things, but it's just like millennials invented cyberbullying. So whatever you're going to tell me, I've heard it before, so I don't give a crap, So I'm just like, that is so true.
Now that reminds me then, who created the whole okay boomer thing? Was it millennials or the Gen Z?
It was, so yeah, I think it was, I don't quote me on this. I think it was millennials, and I think it was first used when like this woman was speaking in front of like Congress or something. Like I remember seeing a video of this like lady like in some sort of like legislative setting, and she was like trying to like make a point, and like one of the congressmen or somebody, the judge, I don't know, said something that was like really like putting her down, and she was like, okay boomer. Like I remember seeing that, and I'm like, is that where it originated from?
So I just Googled it right now.
Okay.
Because I gotta know, because I really don't think that that's an our generation thing, because I think that our generation's a little bit too old for it, to be honest.
Okay.
We're, I think, on the younger end of millennials.
Sure.
So according to the OK Boomer Wikipedia, because apparently it's earned its own Wikipedia page, it was Gen Z.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. They're mean. Gen Z's mean.
So Gen Z apparently is picking fights with all the other gens.
Whatever. Okay, now I'm done with my update. What's going on with your week?
So I don't know if I mentioned it here on this podcast, but I know that I mentioned it to Drea, like, herself. I just got that new, like, hair care product stuff that was made personally for me.
Right.
With me in mind. So I used that today, which was cool, I guess.
And how would you rate it? Give us your review here.
I like it so far. It smells really good. I think there's two things. So I, as you can see, have naturally wavy hair.
Right. As I feel like everyone does, but go on.
Right. And like I feel like the only time like when my hair is straight is when I blow dry it. So I got like this curl like definition like cream thing because I want my waves to be less gross looking.
Okay.
And because like that's a part of it too, is like not just curls but waves as well. And I tried using a diffuser to like dry my hair quickly to see like how it looked with that. And I don't know if it's just because I don't know how to like blow dry properly with a diffuser, but it didn't work out the way that I would have liked it to. But also you can use the curl cream thing for air drying your hair as well. So I'm going to try that next to see if that comes with a more pleasing result.
I actually think your hair does look really cute right now, but I also I have no clue how to use a diffuser, so I'm with you. Like, I'm like, as soon as you said diffuser, I was like, I have no clue how to use it.
Well, yeah, so I'm just kind of like, maybe I'm just not using a diffuser wrong. Because, like, I've tried using a diffuser before for this purpose, like with, a hair care product that's supposed to help with, waves and stuff. But it also didn't come out as intended. And I wonder if it's because applying heat to my hair just makes it straight.
Maybe.
But anyway, I mean, for the parts I really care about, it's too early to tell because apparently, like, some part of it's supposed to stimulate hair growth.
So does it have like biotin infused in it?
I have no idea.
Okay, sorry. Go on.
Well, so I'm curious to see if by using this product it makes my hair grow faster, because that would be really cool, especially since I've said this to you before, I feel like my hair just stops growing at a certain point. And I always wanted it to grow longer than its max, capacity or max capability, and it's never happened, and it's made me sad. So hopefully
it'll push you over the edge.
Right.
Yeah.
Which this is the most attention I put into like washing my hair ever, because like I got a pre-shampoo mask that I have to use every 2 weeks, which is already a lot for me. That's already too high maintenance for me.
Yeah. Because like that. I have a mask also.
Yeah, you have to wet your hair, put the mask
and then like
in your
have
hair,
it in. I know it's.
And then wait 5 to 15 minutes. That's a pretty big gap of time.
Yeah, my hairstylist, the mask that she gave me, she was just like, you just like sleep in it, like put it in, like wrap your hair up and sleep in it. And I'm just like, that's so long.
With wet hair, sleep with wet hair?
Yeah, like she wants me to wet my hair, put the mask in, like wrap it up and like just let it sit there all night and then wash it out in the morning.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and I'm just like, that's so much commitment.
But yeah, so having like 4 different products to use in one day for my hair is a lot for me, because my hair care maintenance is pretty low. I don't like to do a lot. So anyway, so I got that yesterday. What else? I know there was something else too. Darn it. But anyway, it's not been like a really exciting week for me. I mean, I had my grandparents' funeral, so there was that.
Right, which,
So yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
okay.
Not to be a bummer or anything.
Right. I was like
although my cousin did tell me that he listens to the podcast.
Oh, hi cousin. Which cousin? Give him a shout out.
His name's Dean. Hi, Dean. If you listen to this episode, because I know that you don't listen to all episodes, you've only listened to 2, but hey, man, thanks for taking a listen.
If he likes superheroes, he probably will listen to this episode.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, so there's that. And I got some coasters for my own personal set of coasters, because like my mom has coasters for around the house, like for our living room. And I stole one to use upstairs at my desk in my office. But occasionally I like having a water bottle on like my nightstand, just in case I get thirsty throughout the night. And usually I'm taking a water bottle out of the fridge, so there's gonna be condensation, and this is like real wood stuff, so not trying to do that. So I got Friends coasters. They have Friends quotes on them.
Do you have them like here at your disposal, or are they kind of like out of reach?
No, there's one right here.
Show the viewers on YouTube what it looks like.
It says Joey doesn't share food.
Oh, that's cute. I love it.
Yeah.
Super cute.
Yeah, so I mean, not a ton of new stuff. I mean, it's been really nice. Like at work, things are starting to slow down in a certain sense. Like we're not having as many meetings.
Right.
So that's really nice.
That's good.
Oh, and
I have back to work tomorrow.
All right, you do.
Yeah, I'm not happy about it.
I have Monday off.
Really? You have the holiday off?
Is that a holiday?
It is a holiday.
Well, the kids have a week off for February break. And my February break, the staff's February break is 1 day. So I'm just like, hey, that's fine with me.
Well, that's exciting. Yeah, it's a holiday. I think it's either President's Day or Abraham Lincoln's birthday. I think it's one of those. Because this, like yesterday was one of those. And then I know next week on Monday is one of the other one.
Well, I mean, I'm all about it, because I didn't realize until today that I had, Monday off. So I'm just like, hey, 3-day weekend, man. That's great.
Perfect. All right. Well, if you don't have any more updates, let's move on to the topic at hand. Superheroes. So we had divided this conversation into kind of like basically 3 main topics. It's like your overall favorite superheroes, and then like favorite superheroes in terms of movies and favorite superheroes in terms of TV shows. And so for at least the way I did it, Alex, I don't know if this is how you did it. For my like general favorites, I'm just gonna like say them because I kind of go into more detail about them later when we talk like in the movie section. Because okay, here's the thing. Here's a disclosure because a disclaimer, whatever. I am not like a comic book reader. So
neither am I.
Yeah, so like all of this commentary is coming not from the source. So don't at us. It's all from movie, it's all from like TV, it's all from all that. So go ahead.
That's fine. I mean, I only have one for my general favorite because it's just like my go-to favorite. But I also like for the end, I have saved like a couple of extra things to talk about just in case we want to of like favorites out of like characters that had multiple like iterations. Like,
ooh, okay, I like that. I like that.
Yeah,
I know what you're saying.
I'll have some of that to talk about later, so we'll bring that up after we get through our 3 main points. But anyway, so my general favorite superhero, my like go-to one since like I was a teenager, has actually been Batman.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Do you have like reasoning? Or you're gonna share more about it later?
No, I have reasoning because one, generally speaking, I don't really like, as far as like in like TV and movies and stuff, DC really hasn't been killing it. So I was going to be talking about Batman later anyway.
Okay.
So I like Batman because he's a hero that doesn't actually have any superpowers, but chooses to fight crime anyway. Using, you know, his intelligence, training his body, and, you know, using his wealth to help, you know, better his city. And I'm into that. I'm just kind of like, that's a superhero you can not really relate to in the sense of, I don't think most people are rich, but like you can relate to in the sense of he doesn't have any superpowers and he's doing good things anyway.
Yeah, just an average person like becoming a superhero. So in that same vein, are you also an Iron Man fan?
I'll get to that later.
Okay.
That's going to come up in the movies part.
Okay, sorry. Okay. So my general favorites, I have 2 all-time favorites. Like since I was a kid, these have always been my go-to, like they're my favorite character. And it's Wolverine from the X-Men and Spider-Man. They have always been my favorite. And I'm not really going to delve into why yet because I have more information like in the other section.
Well, then I'm going to go into a little bit more for Batman since, you know, so I really like, and this is, I think, is really telling for my preferences in general, just like for all like my favorites as far as like these characters go. I like that Batman is like a darker hero, quote unquote.
Totally.
Because I think that heroes that are too goody two shoes aren't really that relatable.
Okay. Like Captain America.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of flat.
Totally. I'm not a Captain America fan.
Because I think, you know, showing a person's struggle is important because, like, that is the human condition. Although I do like Batman a lot, I've never really cared for any live action movies, especially the Christopher Nolan ones.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Like, Batman Begins is okay. I think that Dark Knight was good. I don't think it was as amazing as everyone was saying it was. And I don't know if like the big hype, well, not hype, the big, you know, reaction to that movie was because of Heath Ledger dying. So it became kind of like something else, I feel like afterwards because, you know, he had died, which I love Heath Ledger. He was a great actor. Awesome actor. But, you know, that didn't really do it for me. And then the third one, Dark Knight Rises, is just like, whatever.
Yeah. That's a hot take, though, Alex, that you didn't think that Dark Knight was really good because I personally think that I'm not like a super big Batman person, and I agree that Rises was it wasn't that good. But I actually thought that Dark Knight was really good, and that was the first. I had never seen Begins prior to watching Dark Knight, and like I really liked it. I thought that it was like you're saying, it's like dark, it's exciting, it's like a good villain. I don't know, I liked it.
I mean, it's the thing is that I did not like it. I liked it well enough. I just don't think that it's like people falling over themselves, like so amazed about these movies. Like they're not like the best things I've ever seen ever, but they're pretty good. Sure. My actual favorite of like seeing Batman and like, you know, different kinds of media is actually the Justice League animated series.
That's
hilarious. Was going on through the 2000s. Like that was my favorite Batman.
Are you going to talk about that in the TV show episode section?
No, I'm not going to talk about that, but that was my favorite. I loved that show, and because I didn't get cable until like later on either, so I didn't watch it. I didn't get to watch it with any kind of regularity until it was on Boomerang.
Yeah,
Which, for those of you who don't know,
Gen Z.
Boomerang, yeah, right. Boomerang is a TV network that I don't even know exists anymore. I think it might be out.
I think it does. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, so Boomerang is a network that plays old cartoons, or what is considered to be old cartoons, like the Jetsons, Johnny Bravo, the Flintstones, all that stuff. And apparently Justice League animated series had made it to Boomerang status, which is heartbreaking.
By the time that you started watching it?
Well, the time that I was like regularly able to find a channel that played it.
I see. That's so funny.
But yeah, so that's really all I have to say about Batman, but he's cool.
Yeah, he is cool. He's a cool character. All right, so let's move on to our movies section. Do you want to share, like, how many do you have in this section, Alex?
Well, I just picked my favorite and then my close second.
Okay, so why don't you go first? Because
are you gonna like wax poetic about this or what?
I'm not.
Have, like, no, a whole list.
I don't. It's just that I have 3 main like universes, and then I just have like quick like my favorites from that universe.
Okay. Well, I'll probably just ad-lib a little bit here so it'll match up a little bit. So my favorite all-time movie superhero is in fact Iron Man.
Okay. Go ahead.
For a lot of the reasons why I like Batman, like especially, because I'm just going based off of the first movie. Okay. Nothing with the source material, nothing about that. I really like that, he was very spoiled and entitled and like, was going through his whole thing and then had a traumatic experience, saw his, role in creating that whole experience and decided I need to go full force in the opposite direction, clean up the messes that I made and like become a superhero. And what I think, because obviously there have been Marvel movies before then, because a lot of other superheroes are in Marvel Universe.
Right.
Like Spider-Man and the X-Men. But I feel like this is like the first Marvel movie that really kicked off that cinematic universe. And that's kind of why I that's why I like it, because like it was the beginning of something. And it was the beginning of something with a character that was so cool to me, especially since I love his sense of humor.
Absolutely. He has the best sense of humor.
He was so funny. And I think that, the way that they did the movie, the technology they featured in the movie, like the way it was shot and whatever, it was like really like great. It was really cool for like what was going on back in 2008 or 9 or something.
Absolutely. And I also like think that they couldn't have possibly casted a better person to portray Iron Man too, because it's almost like Robert Downey Jr. almost had that same character arc as like a person himself too, Right. Like he really like hit rock bottom and then like figured it out and like became this like icon.
Right.
So I'm with you. I love Iron Man. I mean, who doesn't like, like I feel like there's not a single person I've ever met who's like, Iron Man's the worst,
Right. So my close second is really like a tie actually between Wolverine and Thor.
Oh my God. Explain why.
So Wolverine, is kind of in the same vein of heroes that I've been talking about already, where he's like kind of an imperfect person who like still does good things anyway. Totally. And then also, I was telling this to a friend the other day that Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is like the only option. Like after seeing like him be like my first Wolverine in the year 2000, I'm just kind of like, I can't have anyone else play Wolverine ever.
Have we had this conversation? Like,
I don't think so.
Because I always, like, I'm always telling everyone, I'm just like, I know that at some point they're going to have to recast Wolverine. Like, they're going to have to reprise it. There's no way that they won't. And I will not accept it.
Right.
Like, talk about the perfect person to play the perfect role. Like, Hugh Jackman is Wolverine, like there's no one else who is Wolverine.
To me, he's Wolverine. He played it so great, because I'm going to talk about it a little bit more later, but I have some issues with like the movies for X-Men and stuff. But I think that the one shining thing throughout the entire thing was that he did such a good job as Logan. Like he was really amazing. And then I love Thor just because his character like has really good like jokes. Like he's a cool character anyway, but also like those movies have been like pretty funny like consistently, and that's something that I like because I don't like when things are taken too seriously. So that's been really good. So that's, I guess, Marvel. And then for DC, I mean, I guess movie wise, my favorite character would have to be Aquaman, even though I don't feel like his movie, like his standalone movie, was like that amazing.
Yeah.
But considering all the standalone DC movies,
that was the best one.
Especially like recent DC ones.
Oh boy.
Because I know that people, that I feel like that in and of itself is a little bit of a hot take as well. Because I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people would fight me over like the 50 Batman movies there's been before like the Nolan trilogy. Right. I realize that. That's fine. I get it. None of those have particularly been for me. Fight me. Like I really like kind of his more like laid backish nature. That's just like the kind of hero that I like. I don't like things that are hyper serious and hyper stuffy.
For sure.
So I guess that's what I say. But then also like I would say most of the Marvel, heroes would go before Aquaman for me.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think most Marvel heroes in general are just, we could just all agree that it's better than DC.
I will say though, if we're going back to Justice League animated series, like Justice League Unlimited, I really do like Green Lantern.
Okay.
Like his character is really cool. And Hawk Girl is really cool too.
For sure.
But anyways, so that's me for the movies.
Sounds good. Okay, so for me, I've divided mine into Avengers Universe, DC Universe, and then X-Men. And the reason I didn't include X-Men in Marvel, because even though they are Marvel, they were owned by Fox for the movies. Right. And, so for X-Men, I mentioned this. Wolverine, in my opinion, I think is the best hero of all time, like regardless of any other character. And this is why. He, like you said, is not like a perfect character. And yet he's always found a way to be really like righteous. Like he's always the one being the most hurt and yet is always the one that saves the day.
Yeah.
And I also feel like he would beat any other character in any situation because he regenerates. You can't beat him. Even in the movies, like for example, in X3, which let's not reference it that much. But in X3, like Jean Grey, Dark Phoenix, like she is literally indestructible. Like she's going to kill everyone. And Logan is the only person who's able to take her down because as she's killing him, he's like regenerating.
Right. I mean, the only one that he'll have a stalemate with that, from the movies that I can think of, like off the top of my head right now, because I feel like we know Deadpool. A lot of people who had a lot of, feelings about this. Actually, I mean, Deadpool is one of them. But Magneto.
Hold your horses. Because I'm getting there. But yes, okay, but here's the thing. With Magneto, he could, in retrospect, if we think about it, he can control his body because the skeleton is infused with adamantium, right?
Yeah.
So he will be able to incapacitate him, but how is he going to kill him?
Well, that's why I said stalemate.
Okay.
Because neither person is winning necessarily in that scenario because you're not going to be able to kill him, but you can stop him from moving.
It's true. I mean, one can argue that Magneto can like pull his spine out from inside of him, but then would he regenerate? Probably. He would just build another spine. I mean, in the Wolverine movie, like the movie called Wolverine, his adamantium claws get pulled out and then his bone claws come out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, he'll regenerate.
Right.
Best hero of all time. I mean, obviously, when he became Old Man Logan in like the Logan movie, he died, which let's take a minute for our fallen brother. But that's another story. And like on top of it, that movie also just really solidifies my point of like how righteous he is, because like in that movie, Professor X, who is also a great superhero, he's an amazing character, he has killed all the other like X-Men on accident because he has the most powerful mind in the world and has dementia. And obviously Logan has survived through that because I'm sure when he tried to kill him, he just regenerated. And instead of being upset, or instead of like, you know, holding it against him or whatever, he's taking care of Xavier, you know, and the whole movie is him just trying to take it while his body is dying. He is just taking care of everyone around him.
You know, it's really funny that you bring that up, actually, because they're like, if we're going, because I was actually educated recently, like last week, about the lore of Logan, really, like the background on it.
Okay.
I can't talk about it because it has major WandaVision spoilers.
Oh, okay.
So we can talk about it later. We can talk about it later.
Okay.
When we're not on this, because I feel like we can't spoil a show that's like actively on.
Currently going out. Yeah, you're right.
So anyway, we can talk about that after we're finished recording, but like you'll have some opinions on what you just said afterwards.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so yeah, that's my whole spiel on Wolverine. He's the best character. Fight me. All right, now my next favorite character is Magneto. And here's the thing. It's debatable on whether he can be considered a hero, because depending on what movie you're watching, he's either a villain or he's a hero.
I like Magneto a lot. He's cool.
Yeah, he's a great character. And I think that the fact that like you know, he's constantly switching like between hero, villain in every movie is partially like a reason why I love him so much, because he's just so like complex. He's such a complex character, always changing. You never know what you're going to get with him. And then, but ultimately, I think he's so great because he is really just looking out for humanity. And I put humanity in quotation marks because that means something different to him depending on the time in his life.
Right. I think that you could say that when it really comes down to it, like when it's the 11th hour, he's probably going to do something that's in favor of, you know, people in general. I mean, in the sense of like not letting all mutants get obliterated.
Yeah.
Like he'll end up siding with, you know, the good side, like when it really comes down to it, because, you know, when you get all the other stuff away, I think that he's willing to work for the greater good, really.
Totally.
Not necessarily aligning with his more selfish interests.
Yeah. And I think that this is like a debatable analogy, but I feel like him and Professor X can be like compared to like, you know, in terms of like their philosophy on movements to Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. You know what I mean? Like Malcolm X was this more like aggressive, you know, like just dynamic person in history. And ultimately he was fighting the good fight too, you know what I mean? But it's just his way of thought was more controversial and maybe like a little bit more like, I don't know, whatever word you want to put in here, than Martin Luther King. And I feel like that's very similar to like how you can view Magneto and Professor X. Like they're both fighting the good fight, but they both have different ways of what they think is like the appropriate way of handling it. And I really like that about Magneto. I think he's such an interesting character. Also, he is the source of a very powerful family. Like I really like that he is the father of Wanda Maximoff and Pietro. Like and those two characters are some of my all-time favorite characters too, which segues me into my next favorite character, Quicksilver. This is the last one from X-Men. Quicksilver has always been one of my favorite characters in the X-Men universe because I just feel like he's so interesting. Like I feel like he's really funny, especially in the movies. Like I also talk about this a little bit in the TV section because I watched a lot of X-Men Evolution. Sorry, I forgot the name for a second. But in the movies, he's like really interesting. Like every single scene with Quicksilver is like one of my favorite scenes. Like when they slow down everything and he's just like, you know, like having a good time, even though there's like chaos going around him. And he's just like, he's listening to music.
I think it probably really helps your background with a particular like TV show, because he hasn't really yet
done it for you.
Well, no, he hasn't really yet been like super featured in movies.
That's true. Yeah.
Like he hasn't really like taken a term in the limelight here.
That is true. Yeah, I definitely watched a lot of the TV series, so maybe that's why I feel so like.
So when you see him in the movie, you're just like, oh, it's my favorite guy.
Exactly. I'm just like, oh my God, it's Pietro. And it's really funny because I used to reference this character a lot when I was younger. Like when I was on a soccer, I was in ASO and our team colors was like silver and black. And I remember we were trying to come up with a team name. I was like, Quicksilver, we should be Quicksilver. And I convinced the whole team to like name us Quicksilver. So like that was like our team name. And like every single game I would get like, you know, like the hair spray paint.
Yeah. Oh,
I would get like silver hairspray paint and like spray paint my hair. And I was like, yeah. So yeah, he was like one of my favorite characters growing up. Anyways, okay, let's move on to the Avengers universe. I'll go quickly because I'm taking a little bit of time. But obviously I mentioned Spider-Man. I feel like he's a wholesome character. He's really funny, and I feel like he has a really great story arc. And I'm specifically going to talk about Tom Holland's character because it's the most recent, but I can, I'm just going to plug really fast. I feel like Andrew Garfield's character is also amazing. Also, like Tobey Maguire, but but for Tom Holland, I feel like the way he portrays Spider-Man is in a way that like really makes me feel like he's the next generation of heroes. Like he like, especially in Homecoming, like he like wants to be an Avenger, and he like really, really brutally learns how like he's not ready for it, like he is a neighborhood hero. Like he's not ready to save the whole world. And I really like that because it's just like shows how like, I don't know, it's more realistic to me. It's just like hard to believe that someone could be like an average person one day and then just be this superhero the next day. I think
it was the first time like we really saw a Spider-Man like in, our generation saw a Spider-Man in film that actually felt like a high school kid.
Totally.
Because I mean, Tobey Maguire obviously didn't, not at all. And like most of his movie took place, like college, post-college age, really. And then Andrew Garfield didn't really feel necessarily like a teenager.
The thing is, I did feel like Andrew Garfield felt like a teenager, but he didn't feel like a nerdy teenager. Like Andrew Garfield was like a cool kid, you know what I mean? Yeah, like he was like a cool Spider-Man. And so like I really liked it. Like I thought he was awesome, but I'm like, this is not like a nerdy Spider-Man at all. But yeah, so like that's my little plug on Spider-Man. I feel like he's like a really cool character. I also, one of my favorite characters of all time is Thor. And this is because I feel like he's just like really almighty. Like he's a demigod. Like, like how are you not gonna love a character like that? But on top of that, he also like, similar to what I was saying about Logan, he's really righteous. Like at the end of the day, he's always trying to do the right thing and he's like save character. Like at his own expense, he's always just trying to save the people around him. And obviously we see in Endgame that like his life kind of comes like crashing down on him.
I hated when they did that. I hated it so much. I was so annoyed.
I died. Here's the thing. My mom loves that scene when he gets revealed with like the giant belly. Here, let me paint you a picture really fast. We're in the theater for the opening day for Endgame. We're sitting like me, my sister, my mom, and that scene where they go and check on Thor comes up, and he's kind of like
a trio. I can only imagine that when that hit, I'm just oh man.
That's why I'm like, let me paint you a scene really fast. So like, because I've always been a Thor fan, like Chris Hemsworth. Oh my God, it's just like the hottest man ever. But anyways, so they walk into that room and like, Thor is kind of like bending over and you see his long hair kind of like covering his eyes. And up until this point, like in Ragnarok, he had like really short haircut, he was more done up. And so I see his long hair and I'm just like, oh yes, long hair Thor. And I'm like literally saying that. And I'm just like sitting there like, yes, give me this. And so Danielle's just like listening to me and she's like, ew. And my mom is just like, ew. And then like all of a sudden he turns around and there's this huge gut. And the whole theater is like dying laughing.
Right.
But then on top of that, I'm sitting there like, like screaming like not my Thor. And I was like screaming, and my sister is just like, so she's looking at me screaming, she's looking at my mom laughing her literal ass off, like my mom was dying. And so she's just sitting there between like me crying, my mom laughing, and she's just like, oh my God, like what is this? And to this day, like my mom, every single time I bring up like Avengers, she'll always be like, oh, my favorite thing is that they made Thor fat. And I'm like, Mom, how can you say that? Yeah,
I really hate that. I hated it so much.
I thought it was good, like for the sense of it really showed how rock bottom his character like hit, you know what I mean? Which makes a lot of sense. Like he lost his entire like population, his whole world basically died with the exception of the few people who are living in like, New Asgard or whatever. Like he really failed his entire people. And so it makes him really, really believable and relatable to me to see him like fall that far from like, you know, the graces.
Okay, listen. So I'm willing to be like, okay, sure, he needs to hit a rock bottom because this all happened, whatever. But the way in which they did it, because it, to me, it didn't feel like a rock bottom. It just felt like a giant joke that wasn't really that funny to me. Because
Okay.
it would have been more impactful if they showed like rock bottom in a different way. Like, you know, the super depressed stuff, sure, but I don't need him to have a gigantic beer belly. I really don't.
I thought it was good. Like, obviously I love Thor for like being a buff, sexy man, but I thought it was good, especially like later on in the movie when like they show him having like kind of like those existential crises and like having panic attacks and like all this stuff, like all the normal stuff that like a human would experience. Like, I don't know, I really liked it. I felt like it really helped to like drive home that whole idea of like he's really just fallen from graces.
One
Anyway.
other way, like in which I would disagree with you for the like whole Thor thing, is I actually think that his character is at his most attractive during Ragnarok. I really like the short haircut. I also don't usually like long hair on guys, so anyway.
I don't usually either. I usually like short hair, but like for Thor, I'm like, give me that long hair. Anyways, so the next character last in the Avengers universe, and this is a hot topic, I feel like, but one of my all-time favorite characters is Killmonger from Black Panther. He's the villain.
I feel like that suits you.
Well, let me explain why. So I think he's a really interesting character, and kind of similar to like my reasoning for liking everyone else. Like, I feel like he's really relatable in a lot of ways because he's like fighting for the underdog, you know, like he's a product of his environment, and ultimately he's just like, I'm trying to like prove the world that like, you know, Wakanda is this thing that like they're trying to hide from. He's like trying to like, what's the word I'm trying to look for? He's trying to expose the truth, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's a really understandable thing to feel like someone like could drive someone to do something crazy, you know what I mean?
Right. I mean, I can agree with you in the sense that he's a very understandable villain, because like you can understand his motivations. I can't, you know, subscribe to the whole let me like real quick impose my will, take over the world sort of deal. I'm not about that, but I can understand that, you know, in the grand scheme of the movie and like where you find him at the end as he's dying, like he's not an unlikable character.
Right.
Like he's misguided.
Oh, 100%.
He could have been a really good hero if, you know, his circumstances weren't horrible in the beginning, which, you know, what hero doesn't have horrible circumstances?
Absolutely. And like going to your point where it's like he's just taking over and imposing his will on the world, in his defense, he did follow protocol to get there. Like he did challenge you know, Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther's character, which is in their cultural tradition like justifiable because he did have like an heir, you know, he was an heir to the throne and he did beat Chadwick Boseman. Sure. Like
that's fine. I'm talking, but also like all the stuff before leading up to it that he was doing horribly, all the murder and stuff. I'm just like, just because he did that one thing right.
No. Yeah, I totally agree with you. But I was gonna say like I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt there because he did follow the rules, but I don't give him the benefit of the doubt because when Chadwick Boseman came back, he's like, I'm not dead. The challenge is still going on. He's like, no, we're done with that challenge. You know, I'm like, okay, that's not part of the rules. You know, the challenge still goes on if he didn't die. So I'm not giving him that. But I think overall, he's a really interesting character and I like him a lot. He's really believable as a bad guy and he's a product of his environment. Okay, last thing on my list, DC Universe, just one character. And I actually disagree strongly with you on the most tolerable DC movie being Aquaman. I could not even get through Aquaman. I fell asleep because it was so boring to me. I think the best movie was Wonder Woman. And that's why she is my favorite character. The first one in particular, I thought was awesome. She was like super, like, I'm trying to think of another word from like that, but I can't think of it. Yeah, like I just feel like she's super cool. She's also like really altruistic and she's just trying to save like, you know, the humans and trying to save like her way of like living. Obviously, she's a little bit like messed up in the whole sense of like she left her people because she was like interested or whatever. I don't even remember entirely. I need to rewatch it. The second one was okay. I thought it was good. It was so it wasn't my favorite. It was funny. But I really didn't like Justice League. I didn't like the way she was portrayed in Justice League. Like, I feel like it undid all the things that like I liked about her. But overall, she's my favorite DC character.
So I would agree that the first Wonder Woman movie is good. I mean, for me, I lean towards Aquaman just because I like a little bit more humor in my movies.
Sure.
And that's really just it. That's my shallow reason why I just leaned in that direction. However, I really disliked the second Wonder Woman movie.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Because, well, one, I can understand, like, major spoilers, guys. Turn away right now. Major spoilers if you haven't watched it, because I realized it was only on HBO Max for a little while. I don't even think it's on there anymore, so people might not have access to it. So major spoilers, turn away right now, fast forward, whatever. So my whole thing is that I think, given, how dutiful her character is, like the integrity and focus like she showed in the first movie, it was kind of, I didn't feel like aligned with her character that much that it took her so long to take back her wish.
Yeah.
Which I understand, like, if you're going to give Chris Pine a paycheck, you can't just have him in for, like, 15 minutes of the movie.
Sure.
Like, I get it. But, like, my whole thing is just, like, it took her so long when, she has such, a sense of, I need to do the right
like,
thing. And, like,
world, yeah,
like, she's displayed that. I understand that she loves him and that she was lonely without him and, all this stuff. I didn't feel like it particularly aligned with her character. And then also, the whole thing with that villain.
Yeah, the villain was weird.
The villain was weird, and I really don't like, in the end, the whole, I don't need the whole kumbaya on the end of, like, oh, you guys need to save the world right now and undo your wishes, blah, blah, blah.
I'm totally with you. I was like, the ending where she's just like, everyone take back the wish, and everyone and their mom is like, I rescind my wish. I'm like, yeah, right. Everyone in the world would not. Like, we have some nasty, awful people in this world that wouldn't take it back.
Yeah, because I'm way too cynical for that kind of ending. I'm just like, this is nonsense. And then even him himself, like, after, it's all over, you don't really see him get punished in any kind of way. Like, he finds his son and walks off into the sunset. I'm just kind of like,
what gives?
Yeah, I'm just kind of like, you're being wishy-washy about your villain. Like, this doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, I do agree with you.
Why are you wasting my time?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I like it for the overall message that, like, you can't, like, things aren't just given to you. Like, everything has, another side. There's consequences to the things that you do.
There's always a price to be paid.
There's always a price to be paid. Like, I really like the overall message. That I think the movie was executed perfectly? No. But anyway, so that's the end of my movies list. Let's move on to the TV shows. Go ahead, Alex.
So I have a couple here. I have 3 different ones here. So even though I put up 4 fingers, I have 3. So my favorite current superhero TV show is actually The Flash, which I know that wasn't it you, or maybe it was your husband that had, like, kind of issues with it?
I have issues with it.
Okay, it was you then. I really like it. Grant Gustin is my favorite, like, actor to have played The Flash.
Okay.
Because Ezra Miller didn't do anything for me. I really disliked him as The Flash. But I really like The Flash TV show. So, but I guess, like, from that, my favorite character is actually Vibe.
Who's Vibe?
Francisco Ramon. He's like, it starts out as, like, the tech person, like, in, their superhero group.
Okay.
Like, he was helping run all the tech stuff for the Flash, as, he was crime fighting, whatever, and then kind of turns into a hero himself.
Okay.
Like, it turns out that he has powers that he got from, the inciting incident in the beginning of the show, and he becomes his own superhero and kind of, like, takes on a life of his own. He's, like, really funny, really smart, like, all things that I like in heroes.
Sure.
I don't, like, ultimately like the, way that his character went, but also the show has been on the air going into its 7th season. So at a certain point, he probably just, like, as an actor, wanted to lessen his involvement in the show because 7 seasons is a really long time. So, he wasn't, technically at the forefront the whole time. But I really like The Flash as a TV show, especially out of the CW superhero shows that have been going on.
Right.
I feel like that one's the best one, mostly because Arrow is a little bit too dark for me. Supergirl is too political for me.
Okay.
And I mean, there's other CW shows that like kind of are like later generation to me that I just don't care about and didn't want to like invest any time in. So like The Flash as a show was really great to me, and I really liked the Grant Gustin Flash. Moving on, and I think you'll get more excited about this one.
Sure.
Is Raven from Teen Titans.
Oh my god, love. Go on.
See, immediately full change in demeanor. You were disinterested and all of a sudden you're just like, yeah.
I wasn't disinterested. I just disagree strongly. But for the sake, this isn't like a disagreeing podcast. This is a let's share our thoughts. So I was letting you share your thoughts. But I agree entirely with Raven. So continue.
Yeah, I mean, Starfire is really cool too. I mean, just in general, Teen Titans is an amazing show. Like
100%.
It's horrible that it got such a short run.
Let's specify we're not talking about Teen Titans Go.
No, not that abomination. We're talking about the original Teen Titans.
Yeah.
Was amazing.
Absolutely.
Really, the only character that was a little bit annoying was Robin because he was so like stiff.
Yeah, 100%.
But everyone else, like Cyborg was so cool. Beast Boy was super funny and lovable. Starfire was hilarious. And of course, you shipped her so hard with Robin.
With Robin, yeah.
And then Raven was just like a really cool character. Like she had like the coolest aesthetic. And like her powers were cool. And like the struggle of her character because of, you know, who her father was. And, you know, kind of coming from like an evil background.
Mm-hmm.
But still being a hero anyway. And choosing to be a hero all this time. And just wanting to be with her friends, you know, in Titan's Tower. Like the whole thing was cool.
Absolutely.
Love her.
Love her.
Sad that the show was so short.
Yeah.
And then the last one actually is like a major throwback because it was also like, it's also an animated show that played probably in the early 2000s, didn't get a really long run, was Static Shock.
I watched Static Shock when it was on the WB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back when the WB, before the WB turned into the CW.
CW, yeah.
Yes,
that's wild.
Yeah, I enjoy my memories of watching Static Shock. I thought he was a really cool character.
Totally.
And I really like loved his friends that he rolled around with and whatever. Like he was just super cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved the show.
That's actually my husband's favorite superhero.
Oh, really? Like randomly? All time?
Yeah, like randomly. Yeah.
Well, shout out to you, Aaron. Let him know. Because I'm sure that he doesn't listen to our podcast. So let him know that Alex
so I'll let him know.
Let him know that I really like it.
Yeah,
so like those are my three. I mean, that I can think of. Obviously, I said that I love the Justice League animated series. So Justice League Unlimited, those are really cool. But like those are, you know, my TV faves. Right. What about you?
Okay, so obviously I mentioned this earlier, but X-Men Evolution was one of my all-time favorite shows growing up. And in it, my favorite character was Cyclops, which I feel like is unfair because like in all the movies and all the portrayal of him aside from the TV show, he's been made out to be like this total like
the biggest dork. Weenie.
Yeah, like the biggest weenie ever. And there's like an ongoing joke about like James Marsden who plays Cyclops and how he always gets like the butt end of the stick with all his roles. But like I love James Marsden, but his character is such a like he's insufferable.
You hate him. Yeah. You hate him so much.
Literally. But in the TV show, he is the best. Like he's such a good leader. And yeah, he is a little bit of like a tightwad and he is very like strict, stick by the rules, but it's because he's like the leader of the pack and he's the one that's like looking out for everyone and ultimately the one that like comes and saves the day at the end a lot of times. And also there's like a lot of really cool episodes of him and like how he overcomes a lot of strife and like struggle, and I feel like he's just like a really dynamic, like super cool character. And then for Marvel Netflix shows, I really, really liked Jessica Jones the first season. I feel like the second season sucked, but the first season was really, really good. And the reason I felt like it was really good is because one, I feel like Jessica Jones is a cool character. She's really self-destructive, which I can identify with a lot. And it normalizes like what a superhero is, because like she's a superhero, but at the same time, she's like this degenerate in society. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like, I feel like that's like an interesting thought with like, you can have a superhero that's like, not like doesn't have it together, you know. And also another reason why I feel like the show is really, really cool is like the villain in the first in the first season is so scary. Like, have you seen Jessica Jones?
I haven't watched any of the Netflix Marvel shows because,
Really?
I mean, you know how I feel about starting a new show.
Oh, okay, that's fair. But the first season of Jessica Jones is really good. Like the second season, not so much, but the first season is really good. And I don't want to ruin it for you in the event that you do watch it. But the villain, and his name is, oh my God, what is his name? I forget right now what it is, but he is a really, really scary villain. Like, because basically his whole, and this isn't really giving anything away because like it's, said in the beginning, but his like power is that he can get you to do whatever he wants by telling you like to do this. Like, so if he tells you like, hey, like you want to go jump off a cliff, like you can't control yourself, you're going to jump off a cliff. Like,
I
it's
feel like
like,
I've seen that depicted before.
yeah, it's like he has the power of manipulation, and it's like really scary, and like it's an intense season. Like I highly recommend it, Alex. Like I know you're always just like, I don't want to start something new, but it's a really good season. If anything, just watch that one. And then really fast, I just want to touch on Luke Cage because I also really liked that show first season. Like I feel like when I watched that first season, I was like, oh my gosh, Luke Cage is my new favorite superhero. Like he is so altruistic, he's so righteous. He is like the epitome of like just that good-hearted like soul of a person who only wants to do good for his community.
Sure.
And I feel like the second season just totally like shot that to hell for me. Like ruined everything that I loved about Luke Cage, like threw it in the garbage can. But the first season was very, very good and really makes you fall in love with him. Okay, and then lastly, DC shows. I don't like DC shows, but the only one that I do like is Gotham, which is funny because I know that that's not like the popular opinion, but I really, really like Gotham. I feel like it's a really cool show. I really like the characters. I feel like all the villains, because like really you don't get to know Batman until the end because like the whole show is basically like Bruce Wayne becoming Batman, and like when he becomes Batman, the show ends basically. So
Right.
it's more of the show that follows like Detective Gordon and how he's taking down all the villains before Batman can take down the villains.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool show to get to know the villains. And I feel like that's why I like it so much, because it highlights the villains.
I feel like out of all the shows you've lobbied to me, because there have been a lot of shows that you've lobbied to me, that one's been the most tempting to maybe start.
Which is funny because that one's the most extensive.
Yeah, I mean, but it's piqued my interest enough. That I'm just like, maybe, but also don't hold your breath.
If you like all the DC TV shows, I feel like you probably would like Gotham because it's very like in that wheelhouse of like, for lack of a better word, cheesy. But but if you want a really good show, I'm telling you, Jessica Jones season 1 is like, it's good. It's dark. But anyway, okay, like that's my little spiel on TV shows. Let's plow through your little extra comments really fast and then wrap it up here.
Okay, so you kind of brought it up a little bit earlier. So because there's been like a couple characters that have been played by like so many different actors, I just thought it'd be interesting to talk about who is your favorite of each category. So who is your all-time favorite Spider-Man? Rank your Spider-Man.
That's a great question, Alex, because I feel like I can give different rankings with different reasonings. But if I have to just go with like straight, like my gut, I have to go Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire.
So mine differs a little bit because I'd go Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland, and then Tobey Maguire.
Interesting. Why do you put Andrew Garfield first?
I really liked The Amazing Spider-Man. Like the first movie, I really, really liked that one. Like more so than I've liked any other Spider-Man movie, including the Tom Holland ones. Even though I do like the Tom Holland ones quite a bit. Don't get me wrong. I just really like the first Amazing Spider-Man.
Totally.
The second one broke my heart, but they also stuck to the source material, so I can't exactly blame them because Gwen Stacy's supposed to die. So
yeah. Yeah, like I'm with you with the whole, and that's one of the things I really liked about Amazing Spider-Man is like what you said exactly. Like they stuck to the source material because they really like, okay, in the Tobey Maguire one they did mention Gwen Stacy like for a hot second in the third one, but like in no other Spider-Man have they mentioned Gwen Stacy, and I'm like, she's such an important character to like the whole story. Why is she not being mentioned?
Well, I feel like the problem with that actually is because there's so many different avenues you can go down for superhero characters, because like they have all the main plots, and then they have all the alternate universe plots and multiverse plots and like all these different things. So, you know, you can put that out there that, you know, they want to probably just focus on one leading lady at a time.
Totally.
So, I mean, and I really, to the credit of, you know, the Tom Holland Spider-Man, like for Away From Home, I like that one a lot, actually. That one was pretty good to me. And I also really like Zendaya as Mary Jane.
Love Zendaya, just as a person.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I'm with you in the sense of I have a very special place in my heart, and I almost arguably will say that the Amazing Spider-Mans are better movies than the Tom Holland Spider-Mans, but I feel like Tom Holland portrays a better Spider-Man than Andrew Garfield. Kind of going to the same point we were saying earlier, it's just like he's too cool to be Spider-Man. Yeah, that's not who Spider-Man is.
Yeah, because for me, my ranking is just on personal preference, because I think that Andrew Garfield does just make a really cool Spider-Man. But as far as believability, I would agree with you that Tom Holland is the most believable Spider-Man, because he's the most like a kid and the most, you know, goofy and nerdy and whatever. And then also his performance in Infinity Wars, like right there at the end, like that was a tear-jerking moment that I'm just like, you did good, kid. You did good.
I feel like Tom Holland has a way to always bring in a tearjerker for me. I think the only movie that he didn't get me like on a tear is Far From Home. But with Homecoming, with Infinity War, and with Endgame, like all of them, I was just like, God dang it, Tom Holland. Because with like with Homecoming, that part when he's stuck underneath the fallen structure and he's calling out for help in this like place that's in the middle of nowhere, like no one can hear him, and he's like, I'm down here, someone help. You know what I'm talking about?
Right. Yeah.
I was like, oh man, like that really, because it showed how like he's a kid, like he's a superhero and he's been trying to pretend to be a superhero the whole time, but at the end of the day he's still a kid, and when he's in a bind he's like, help me, you know. And it made me just like, oh my god, like there's a kid who's dying here, you know. It really got me.
That's the part of the whole snap for him that like really just like I couldn't deal with it. Like I was sobbing in a very real way in the movie theater, because I'm just kind of like, I want, like, my maternal instincts in me wants to protect this child.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, so moving on. So next ranking list are actually, and I feel like this is a lot more clear cut. Your favorite Hulk actor. So your choices are the original Lou Ferrigno.
Okay.
Eric Bana, which I don't know if you watched that version of the Hulk. Edward Norton, and Mark Ruffalo. Go.
That's a great one. So, okay. So I haven't seen the second one. Who did you say the second one is?
Eric Bana.
I haven't seen that one. So for the sake of like, I haven't seen it, I'm not going to include him. But between, what's his face? Mark Ruffalo, Edward Norton, and Lou Ferrigno. Oh, that's a great question. Obviously, because of the time it was made and the resources they had, I have to put the first Hulk as the bottom, because it's just not as cool at this point. Like maybe if we watched it when it first came out, like we were kids when it came out, I would have been more inclined to like that more. But like I saw that when I was like 15, you know, like I was like, this is so cheesy. So that one's gonna be my bottom. And then between Edward Norton and Mark Ruffalo, I have to give it to Mark Ruffalo. I have to give it to Mark Ruffalo because I actually really liked Edward Norton's Hulk. I thought it was a good movie, and like I like Edward Norton as a character. I mean, as an actor, I feel like he has a great way of bringing this kind of like weak Bruce Banner feel to it, which he kind of is. Like he's this like scientist, you know, like it's nothing special about him, and it's only when he becomes the Hulk that he's like this intimidating, like crazy blah. And I feel like Mark Ruffalo is this more like beefcake guy that I'm just like, that's not Hulk, you know, or that's not Bruce Banner rather. But ultimately I just feel like Mark Ruffalo did a better job in total portraying the character.
Okay, so for me, I'd actually rank it the exact same way. Well, probably put Eric Bana above Lou Ferrigno.
Okay.
I mean, but I've actually watched that movie. But I think that out of the movie, Lou Ferrigno I put at the bottom just because I actually haven't watched like the really old school Hulk movies or like anything with the old school Hulk in it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, because of, the technology back then, I'd probably put him at the bottom anyway.
Yeah.
The Eric Bana Hulk was atrocious. Hated it.
Is that the one where he's like wearing like clothes?
Like I don't remember. T-shirt? It's been a really long time since I watched it because I watched it the one time just like, man, this is horrible. I did think The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton was actually pretty decent, especially in light of, the Hulk preceding it with Eric Bana.
Totally.
And that's a really high compliment to me because I don't really like Edward Norton, and you know this about me. So I'm just kind of like, for me to put him in second is like pretty good. But I did think it was a very interesting story that they told. Ultimately, I like the way that Mark Ruffalo portrays Bruce.
Yeah.
Just because I really just in general like Mark Ruffalo as well as an actor. Love Mark Ruffalo. I find him to be super likable. So to me, I'm just kind of like, you go, Mark. You do that Bruce thing.
I 100% agree.
I have major issues with him becoming, half Bruce, half Hulk.
Oh yeah.
I hate that so much. I really don't like it. Like I just had a conversation like a couple days ago with one of my friends about this, and he was explaining to me the why of how this had to happen. I was like, I don't care. I don't like it.
That's so funny. Anyway, I'm not opinionated on that. I don't mind it, but I think that's so funny that you don't like it a lot.
I mean, this one's really quick. Favorite franchise, Marvel or DC?
Marvel. Is that a question?
Because, yes.
DC, okay, here's the thing, really fast before, because I do have a comment on this really fast. Mm-hmm. I feel like DC has a lot more opportunity to make something really big with their characters, because I feel like the DC universe is a little bit darker than the Marvel universe, but I feel like somehow DC has not been able to figure it out and put out a good movie. The end. Yeah. Like they can't figure it out.
I think that, to me, it's a little bit of they didn't get to take their time in the way that Marvel did, in the way that Marvel got to plan out, all these different phases.
Totally.
So they're rushing to catch up, and because they're rushing to catch up, it just hasn't been hitting the way that it should.
Yeah.
Like, it's just been bad.
But I also want to, like, if, like, the Russo brothers were to put out, like, a Batman movie or something like that, I feel like that'd be amazing. Like, I feel like, if you have the right directors, if you have the right writers, the right everything, like, I feel like it could be an amazing movie. They just don't.
One thing I'm very interested in, to, DC's credit, is when they release the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League on HBO Max, which my older brother has been texting me about for what feels like a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, when is this ever going to come out? Because I feel like you've been telling me, oh man, it's coming for all this time. And it's like, when are they dropping this? Because supposedly it's supposed to be so good.
Yeah. My friend Robert, who we're actually going to Zoom with after this podcast, he was also telling me about this the other day. And I was just like, okay, well, when it comes out.
Right. All right. So what movie do you think was done the worst, like, out of all superhero movies that you've seen? Like, something, you're going good or whatever, and then you just beefed it.
Let me tell you right now, I have the answer for you. We don't need to discuss it. It's X3 and Dark Phoenix. The end. No movie is worse.
I agree with both of those. I would add in Spider-Man 3.
Oh God, yeah, you're right. I would also add in Wolverine Origins.
Yeah, but you're totally right. Dark Phoenix was complete trash.
Yeah. Here's the thing too, is that X3 was so agreeably the worst movie ever made by like for superheroes, and they specifically went out of their way to do Days of Future Past to erase it from the timeline. It's like the movie never happened. And then they had to come out, with Dark Phoenix. Nobody told them you have to put out a Dark Phoenix. And I was like, you know what? Maybe it's going to be good this time, because they learned from X3. They're going to make it better. And guess what? They didn't make it better.
To me, like, really, I can I can watch the second X-Men movie. That's fine. Like, that's whatever. I don't love it, but I'm able to watch it. But really, to me, anything after the original, like, year 2000 X-Men is kind of garbage. Like, all other X-Men movies, I'm not really that into. Days of Futures Past, I didn't really like it that much. Take a breath.
That is the most controversial thing you've ever said to me in my life. I've never in my life been more offended, Alex.
Well, here's the thing. I think a lot of it probably is the grudge I was holding over X3.
X2 is, I think, way better than X1, like the original X-Men. X2 is my favorite one. All of the remakes, like First Class, Days of Future Past, even Apocalypse, I feel like are amazing. Fight me.
Yeah, I'm not... Apocalypse is whatever to me. And I will say that I think what was unlikable to me about X2 was that an overwhelming part of the storyline was just like everyone and their mother just really being Scott and Logan. Being like, Jean, be mine.
But it like pushed the storyline forward in the whole like tragedy that was her dying at the end.
Yes, and that cleared the path for X3.
God.
Right. Very last thing, just to end the whole thing, very quickly, what are your least favorite superheroes? Who are your least favorite superheroes?
Captain America. And I know that that's a hot take because
I agree with you, though.
Everyone and their mom loves Captain America, but I just feel like he's the most boring character. You know, like his strife to become a super soldier was that like he grew up without a parent. Like everyone grew up without a parent, you know, or like he grew up with like, I don't even know his story. What was his storyline? His parents died or like they were abusive or what was it?
That's not at all what it was.
Oh,
None of that was what it was, at least in the movies. None of that was what it was.
What is it?
So what it was is that he was like always like a really short and like frail kind of guy.
Right.
And he just wanted to join the war effort. Like all he wanted to do was be a soldier and defend his country.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, but what was his family life?
I don't think they went into it at all.
Okay, then what the hell is like his strife is that he's just a small dude? Like that's not strife. That's just genetics. Like I'm a brawny girl. Girls aren't brawny. Girls are supposed to be feminine. What am I going to be a super soldier next? Like I feel like I don't know. I don't like him as a character. Like I just feel like he's the least person that I feel shows growth.
I don't like Captain America because I feel like he is so needlessly rigid about everything. In the sense of like, I know that Civil War like had to happen, but I hate it when superheroes fight each other. Sure. I don't like when you're all supposed to be on the same team and all of a sudden you're not. So there's that. But I'm just like, to me, I love Iron Man, so obviously like I'm gonna choose Iron Man's side in the whole fight.
Totally.
So that kind of makes me by default just not really like Captain America that much.
Sure.
Because I'm just kind of like, you know, I know he's trying to defend Bucky and whatever, but I also think that there was probably some room in the middle for really both of them to like work that out without it turning into Civil War.
I mean, if he would have just told Tony in the beginning, hey, by the way, when Bucky was brainwashed, this happened, this whole thing would have been avoided, you know?
Yeah. To me, I kind of feel like Captain America just in general is too black and white about everything.
I agree.
Anyway, so I don't like him. And then in the same token, his counterpart in the DC universe, I don't really like Superman at all.
Oh, okay. I don't really know too much about Superman, but go on. Why don't you like him?
Mostly because like he's the biggest goody two shoes ever.
Oh.
Like he's just a flat character to me.
Yeah, I've never followed Superman, so I couldn't really speak to it at all.
But my last little thing is that I feel like Ant-Man is too much of a goofball.
I love Ant-Man, so I disagree.
It's fine, but it's a little bit too goofy for me.
That's hilarious because this whole time you've been saying the reason you like certain movies is for the the comedic factor of it, and then you come at me with it's too goofy. I'm like, what do you want, Alex?
You want to know what it is? Is that Ant-Man's the second string.
I like Ant-Man.
And that's fine. And I thought that the movies were fine. He's just a second string to me. Like, it's like watching a B movie.
I don't think that it's watching a B movie. I agree that he's
in comparison.
Like, he's the B team. Like, he's never going to be like a front runner superhero, but I like him a lot. I think that the movies were fun. I think that he's a fun character, and I like him when he's in the movies.
So I also kind of think that Star-Lord is a brat.
I hate Star-Lord. And I'm really not with this whole thing that they've announced that Star-Lord is bisexual. Like,
what? I don't think that's necessary at all.
Like, what? Exactly. Like, and here,
why does this have to be?
And here's the thing, like, this is coming from a person who identifies in the LGBTQ community. Like, I don't feel like announcing that he's bisexual in any way represents my community. You know, I'm just like, wait, why though? Like, you already had great characters that have represented, you know, like whatever that interest, you know, the Valkyrie, you know, like things like that. Why do we need Star-Lord to be bisexual? Is he bisexual in the comics?
I guess. Here's my thing. I said I guess. That's what literally I've been getting on headlines because, like, I'm not going to, like, read that article. I also highly doubt that we're going to see that part of him played in any kind of movie because of who his actor is.
Totally.
Chris Pratt's not going to do it. I don't think he's going to do it.
Chris Pratt is so rigid, like, against it. Like, he's supported churches that are very anti-LGBTQ, and that's like one of the reasons that people have so much issue with this is just like, you can't portray this community with a person who doesn't support the community.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't, doesn't need to be like something super talked about because it's never going to be in a movie. I don't know.
I'm with you.
But anyway, so that's all she wrote.
I agree. This is what we got. Like we said, nothing is from source material. We didn't read the comics, so don't be like, you're wrong. Captain America actually came from really humble beginnings. Like, whatever. I'm talking about the movie. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Talk to us on our Instagram. Tell us who your favorite superhero is and who's your least favorite.
See you next time.
Bye, guys.